Tell us about this. Andreas Christensen. What's going on here?
Yeah, this is a really interesting situation that is developing overnight and into this morning. We know that Christensen has been playing a bit of contract hokey-cokey, shall we say, with Chelsea. 1 minute he's in, then he's out. As it stands, he's a free agent in the summer. And as I say, sources in Germany suggesting Borussia Dortmund pushing really hard on this transfer. Usually, they would struggle to finance a deal like this, given the amount of money that Christensen will be earning at Chelsea. But the fact he is a free agent makes it a live option, as I understand it. He knows the Bundesliga. He had a stint on loan at Gladbach and would be guaranteed to play week in, week out in a club that always qualify for the Champions League. So that is a deal that could well happen even this month. If it does, then maybe Chelsea might just rekindle their interest from the summer in one Jules Koundé. So maybe some developments at Stamford Bridge over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, Alex, we can tell Newcastle fans there was a bit of a buzz around the training ground this morning. I spoke to Lee, the media man, who told me Chris Wood was in with his new teammates, introducing himself, chatting to them before they went out to train. Chris Wood is in at Newcastle United. They've got a crunch match, my God, against Watford this weekend. Do we expect any more Newcastle signings before that match, Alex?
They certainly hope so, Jim. They see this Watford game, as you do, as arguably their most important of the season so far. If they win it, they leapfrog Watford in the table. If they lose it, that gap to survival becomes 4 points. That's why they want to go into it with as many new arrivals as possible. They have until midday on Friday to register any new players in time to feature, so the clock is ticking on that front. talkSPORT broke the news yesterday. They've gone back in with a fresh bid for the Sevilla centre-back Diego Carlos. I think that's still some way short of the Spanish club's £40 million asking price. That at the moment is looking tricky, especially as Sevilla very much in the thick of a title race in Spain and clearly don't want to weaken themselves. The other names we know about are that of Hugo Ekitike, the young French striker who Simon and I spoke about yesterday. I understand he is keen on a move to the northeast. And then the Monaco defender Benoit Badiashile, although he's picked up a foot injury in recent days, so that could be a problem as well. Newcastle also want to be part of the conversation for the RB Leipzig midfielder Amadou Haidara. He's been linked with Manchester United in the past, so if they could pull that one off, that would be a real statement signing. But just on Chris Wood, I think there's been a bit of snobbery when it comes to this deal. I see it as a win-win for Newcastle. They've weakened Burnley. Burnley really unhappy with the transaction, as we know. He's a player who's proven in the Premier League. He will debut at the weekend. We know that Kieran Trippier, particularly on that right-hand side, will be delivering just the type of ball that Chris Wood wants to get on the end of. And when Callum Wilson is fit, that could be a good partnership, reminiscent of when Bournemouth were promoted to the Premier League. Wilson played alongside Jan Morgan, the big French striker. So I think this is a really shrewd piece of business. Yes, it's not Kylian Mbappe, but I tell you what, I think Chris Wood could make a big difference for Newcastle between now and the end of the season.
What do you make about, again, I made the point earlier on, I made it yesterday, about this rumour circling from pretty significantly reliable sources that this release clause for Burnley didn't kick in until the summer. So this wasn't a transaction that Burnley had to enter into. And one of the reasons they've entered into it is because they get 20 million up front, because that's how Newcastle do business right now.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference. What do you make to that, Alex?
Yeah, I heard you say that, Simon, actually. I was driving my car at the time and I was surprised, but I have no reason to doubt your sources. But I think what it does emphasise is that maybe this new ownership group at Burnley aren't quite all they cracked up to be. They promised the world when they came in. There's been very minimal investment. And I know that Alan Pace, before he went in at Burnley, was interested in buying another Premier League club, and they weren't convinced that he had the type of financial muscle really to be competitive in the Premier League. That's why that deal didn't happen. And actually, when it comes to players coming into Burnley, at the moment they don't seem, from what I'm told, to have a replacement lined up for Chris Wood. That's really worrying because they've struggled for goals, not just this season, but the back end of last season as well. I think they're in big trouble.
Alex, minutes to go, so let's get a bend on with it. Leicester are apparently in a battle to keep Yerry Tielemans.
Yeah, he's another player into the final 18 months of his contract. There seem to be so many up and down the Premier League. He hasn't agreed a new deal. His advisors have already started sounding out potential clubs, including Arsenal. I don't think Leicester will be willing to sell this month, but they may have to come the summer. And what a loss that would be for them. This is the man, of course, who scored a brilliant winning goal in last season's FA Cup final. I think he'd be perfect for Arsenal. You can see him in that midfield.
Speaking of Arsenal, what is this I'm hearing about a Juventus midfielder?
Yeah, they are. They are heavily linked with King Arthur. Arthur, the Brazilian midfielder. He's a player that cost Juventus a princely sum of €72 million from Barcelona a couple of years ago. They are willing to send him out on loan. if they can find a suitable replacement. Arsenal really liked in the midfield area. They let Ainsley Maitland-Niles join Roma. Yeah. Thomas Partey is at the African Cup of Nations. And Granit Xhaka has had issues with COVID. So they are looking to strengthen in midfield. Arthur, a definite possibility.
OK, and finally, we've got to do it. I mean, it's about Everton. We know Everton have lost Lucas Digne to Villa. What's the latest? Anwar El Ghazi. We know him at Villa. Is he going to Everton? Is it happening today?
Yeah, that one is pretty much done as far as I understand it. It will be a loan move until the end of the season with an option to buy, although Everton at the moment not agreeing with Villa's £15 million price tag. So some negotiating to be done come the summer if they did want to keep him. I guess it's low risk, it's a loan deal, but I'm not sure many Everton fans overly excited. They've lost Luca Digne, who for me was one of their better players over the last couple of years, and they're bringing in someone who's only started 4 Premier League games this season. So Everton's still having to cut their cloth accordingly.